My recommendation is to do it no matter what. And if you're tired, if you're one of these people that falls asleep when you meditate, your intention is not strong. Your intention is not strong enough, you know. I always say that if you want to understand how the mind works, the mind will have you go unconscious when you go to practice meditation because you're threatening it. You're threatening it by leaving it. And so the mind has a repertoire. The mind has all kinds of different ways that it can deal with that. One way is to have you just get so anxious you can't stand it. The racing mind syndrome. The other way is just have you keep falling asleep when you try and meditate. But just to demonstrate the truth about the nature of the mind, that very same person that said that they couldn't stay awake when they meditated, if you said, okay, I'll give you $1,000 if you stay awake during your meditation, somehow they'll find a way to do it. It's interesting, you know. Boredom may come up, you know, because the transition from being so active to being so inactive could bring up boredom, but that too is a state of mind, just like agitation and falling asleep. So the question is, as you go through the process of practicing meditation, the question is, are you paying attention to the different ways your mind shows up? One of those ways is boredom. I want something to do. That's the way the mind operates. It wants to be active. It doesn't like inactivity. It wants you to be active. It wants you to be thinking. So if boredom comes up, you just notice it. It's like everything else, you know. See, that's the thing. The freedom that becomes available through the practice of meditation is you get to let go of your attachment to your own mind. You get to let go of identifying with that voice in your head. You get to let go of all of the craziness that mind is generating all the time. It's freedom. You get the freedom to be and the freedom to act without being in a reaction. So that you begin to see all the judging and evaluating that goes on, all the agitation, all the aggression, all the inhibition. These are all mental activities that are occurring, right? And through meditation, instead of identifying with that and being that, you know, being the mental activity, no, you're learning to experience it, be aware of it, but not be it. And when that begins to happen, there's a kind of a freedom that occurs because you realize that you're not angry, there's anger occurring in awareness. You're not sad, there's sadness occurring in awareness. You're not bored, there's boredom occurring in awareness. So you can watch the mental activity instead of be the mental activity. And when you get that kind of freedom, it can be something that pays dividends, because prior to having that freedom, when you were identified with the thinking activity and all the different ways the mind shows up, right? You had a direct connection to that, and you were speaking it and acting it. Right? And that's exactly why you're suffering. That's exactly what causes the suffering. That's exactly what causes the conflict. It's exactly what causes all of the neurotic material, you know, the thinking about your circumstances, thinking about your relationship, thinking about your money, thinking about your death, thinking about your past, thinking about your future. You know, it's generating a reality that you get to live in and suffer. The mind generates a reality you get to live in and suffer. And for most people, they have no idea that that's going on. You know, people are experiencing being their mind. So what the voice in their head says, that's me thinking. What comes up in terms of the emotions and the worry and the fear and the aggression and the anxiety and the depression, you know, as all that plays out and manifests itself in speaking in your mind, the voice talks about it. The voice tells you negative stories. It tells you about the people you should be weary of. It tells you about the things you should try and get more of. It tells you about the things you should try and avoid. Constantly, constantly, constantly. No, never ending, never any rest. So what meditation makes possible is to break up that relationship in which you're identified with the mind, and that causes suffering because the programming that's running the mind does not give a shit about whether you're happy. Program that's running your mind does not care about the quality of your life. All it cares about is that you don't let anybody take advantage of you. All it cares about is that you're ready to fight, if somebody pushes the wrong way, or you're ready to run if a situation gets too threatening, right? That's all it cares about is survival. That's not a problem, in terms of the fact that that initial survival programming had to be there so that the physical body stood a chance of making it through life, right? The only problem is that it's not just surviving the physical body anymore, it's surviving you, the person. And you, the person, is not physical. You, the person, is a self-image. It's a concept that doesn't actually exist. But if you're identified with being a personality, and that's what you're having to survive, not just the body, you got a full-time job. That's 24/7. Surviving, for you to focus on the mental activity as a way of surviving as a personality is a full-time job. It's called worry, It's called ruminating. It's called neurosis, or worse, depression, anxiety, bipolar. All of the extreme forms of mental illness are an exaggerated form of the mind. They're an exaggerated state of mind, right? So that's why I say the meditation is not just about practicing stress reduction, it's about being sane. It's about being sane. Well, this is not religion, this is not some belief system, no. This is actual brain science now, that your brain does change when you practice meditation. And if your brain changes, guess what? Your life changes, right? Because your brain is the center of your activity in life. It's the center of the thought process. It's the center of what the database, your memory, right? And if you get a good head injury, right, you don't know who you are. This is an amazing thing if you really consider it, right? That the identity that you're living as every single day, right, is nothing but a memory. Because if you get a good head injury, right, and you lose your memory, you don't know who you are anymore. That's an important thing to understand, that the identity that you're living as doesn't exist. The identity that you're being is a memory. You have to remember who you are. And then you have to actualize that memory every day, right? By dressing a certain way so you can have your unique version of this personality, right? And try and compete with the other personalities in some way. You got to compete with all the 8 billion personalities roaming around on the earth. So that's the game that everybody's playing, to get more money, get more power, get more fame, get more education, get more control, so you can rise to the top of the heap of shit. Really, that's the reality of what's going on, that as, I don't know whether it was Socrates or Plato that said, an unexamined life is not worth living. He wasn't kidding, If your life is just an unconscious process that you're going through, every day mechanically, getting up and going to sleep, going to work, just repeating, repetition, Where are you going? Where is this heading? Do you ever stop and look? Where is your life heading? Where is it going? I can tell you, if you really want to know. Nowhere. This isn't going anywhere. You just keep going around and around and around until you drop. That's called the human life. Right? But if you practice meditation and you wake up to your divine nature, if you practice meditation and you wake up to the truth, which is that you are not your mind, you are not a physical body, you are the awareness of this body. That's why when we're practicing meditation and you're practicing moving attention from the thinking activity to watching the body breathe, you're moving your attention away from the lie to the truth. You're moving your attention away from the conditioned state that you're in to the actual reality that you're experiencing, which is that you are the awareness of the body breathing. You're sitting there as the awareness, literally looking at the body breathe. That's what's happening. It's a new experience. It takes a while to take hold, right? But if you do it consistently over time, gradually you'll start noticing that when you're in the middle of your life, when you're going through your day, you wake up and you start to realize there's thinking going on here, there's emotions occurring here, there's physical sensations occurring here, right? And there's circumstances occurring here. And you start to be able to look at that. You start to be able to watch that happening instead of identify with it so completely, that you're not experiencing your life, you're experiencing this process of survival. So through practicing meditation, it's possible to wake up and actually experience your life instead of being stuck in this process called survival, stuck in this everyday process that you're trying to get through it. If you catch yourself trying to get through the day, you should take note, right? Because that's your life you're trying to get through. Instead of living it, you're trying to get it over with, right? That's about as crazy as you can get, right? Everybody's in a hurry to get to retirement and then die. Am I missing something? Everybody's hurry. Everybody wakes up in the morning and looks forward to the end of the day. Everybody starts the week on Monday. Monday's not a good day. Everybody knows that. Right? Wednesday's okay. Friday's better. Saturday's even better. Saturday and Sunday are good, and then it gets bad again. That's the insanity we're going through, right? The reality of it is, it's all exactly the same. They're just moments of experience, moments of your life happening, right? And if you're not there for it, where are you? If you're not there for your life, where are you? Look and see, where are you? If you're not there for what's happening, if you're not there for the experience of being alive, if you're not there for the experience of your very existence, you're not experiencing that you exist. You're not experiencing that you exist. You experience that there is this character called the person that exists, and you're busy being that. So your attention is preoccupied all the time with your being a person. What do I think? What do I think about my relationships? What do I think about my situation? What do I think about, I got to do better, I got to get more, I got to get different, I got to do less. More, different, better, or less is the game that everybody's playing. Check it out. Look around. Some people are doing, some people want to do less. That's the game they're playing. Other people want to do more. That's the game they're playing. Other people want to do different. That's the game they're playing. But it's only limited to those those options, right? You can do more, different, or better, or less. And that's what's going on all the time. You wake up in the morning and you will look to see, what do I want more of today? Or what do I want less of today? What do I want to do different today? There are my options, right? And if you watch TV and you look at the packages in the supermarket, right? Look at the verbiage on the packages. This gives you more. This gives you less of what you don't want. This gives you something different than you've had before, right? So that's the game. More, different, and better is all the time. Not real, not actual, not fulfilling, not satisfying, not peaceful, not exciting. Just a constant repetition of more, different, and better, more, different, and better, more, different, and better. Take a few moments and look to see where you're at about this. See, that's the thing when I teach this class. I know that there are 10 minds in front of me. There are 10 minds in front of me. There's 10 situations going on where there's a voice talking in your mind. And I don't know what that is, but you do yourself a favor, and take a look and see, where am I at about this? Do I get that this can make a profound difference in my life? And if I do, am I practicing meditation every single day? Or am I trying to practice meditation and failing at it, and so I'm frustrated and therefore I don't do it consistently? No, the motivation to practice meditation comes from your true nature. Yes, your true nature is waiting for you to notice it, so it can be you. It's coming from, when you hear these talks, right, the intention of these talks is for resonance. It's for it to resonate with you. Well, what's it resonating with? It's resonating with your true nature. If you hear a talk and the way that occurs for you is like, oh, that's really true, I get that, I see that, right? What do you think is getting and seeing it? It's not what you think, What you think will be bringing up the considerations and concerns. It'll bring up the questions about, well, what about this and what about that? You know, it'll turn it into, thoughts are awareness. Awareness is all that actually exists. Thinking is awareness, right? The problem is that thinking is awareness that has lost its connection to its source. That's what thinking is. Thinking is awareness that is manifesting itself as a human life occurring. And in order for the human life to occur, you have to forget your true nature. Why? Because your true nature is awareness, and your true nature has no form. How is that going to experience a life, right? So it's got to take form. And when it takes form as a human body, and it takes form as a mind, and that mind has to forget its true divine nature in order to play this game, in order to play the game of life. But the game of life doesn't have to be a game that you're playing in order to fulfill on the potential and possibilities that are available in life. No, the game of life can be played, and you can be aware that you're playing a game so you don't take it so seriously. Yes, that's all. That's called waking up. You see things as they are. You see life as it is. You see your mind as it is. You see your emotions as they really are, you know, instead of identifying with all those things and thinking you already know, right? You begin to realize that not knowing is very powerful. To think you already know everything is what's causing you to suffer so much, right? So they say in Zen, you know, Zen mind, beginner's mind. You're practicing a beginner's mind. You know? Don't know mind, right? Don't know mind. If you have a don't know mind, you're open and receptive to what's happening, right? If you have a know mind, you're judging and evaluating everything to see if it fits what you already believe.
And things don't have to be boring necessarily, right?
No. But no, boredom can be seen for what it is. It's just the state of mind, right? And it'll pass. You know, if you stay with the process, if you walk this path, right, and you stay with this process and you continue to meditate consistently over time, as my teacher says, your life will become a miracle. You know, the Course in Miracles, this is something that just occurred to me recently. People study the Course in Miracles, you know, they think it's a valuable thing to study. I've sat in on groups of people that study the Course in Miracles. They bring their book. They have all the markers in their book. They have all these underlined in the book, and they sit there and share understandings back and forth for an hour. That's not going anywhere, right? That's not going anywhere. The Course in Miracles is intended for you to realize that everything is a miracle. Everything is a miracle. A miracle isn't an exception. A miracle is not something that, you know, you could define a miracle by saying it's something that's not supposed to happen, right? It's a miracle. It's not supposed to happen, right? Well, everything's not supposed to happen, so everything's a miracle. Your life is a miracle. It wasn't supposed to happen. You know, you didn't have to be born, you know, but you did. You were one of the miracles that happened when the sperm and the egg connected while a million other sperms and eggs didn't connect. Yours did. You know, so then you get to be here. And the appreciation of that experience, the blessing of that experience, the appreciation of that experience is a miraculous experience that is the reason that a lot of teachings talk about gratitude. You don't wake up in the morning and be grateful that you just woke up. You wake up in the morning dreading the day, right? So when you start to practice meditation, you start to realize how miraculous this whole thing is. All of it, the good, bad, and the ugly. It's all a miraculous situation that's occurring. And you get interested in watching it and looking at it and comprehending it, you know, and recognizing that there's a possibility for you to make a contribution in the situation you find yourself in instead of just be there to see what you can get out of it, you know. You start seeing your relationships as an opportunity to make a contribution to the other person instead of just looking at them as, are you meeting my needs? That's insanity, to be in a relationship only because that other person has something you want and you want them to keep giving it to you. That's not going to work out very well, especially if it's going in both directions. But if you wake up and you realize, wow, I have another person that loves me. I have another person that's committed to living life next to me and sharing the experiences that we're having. And so then the kind of love that I'm experiencing is the unconditional love that is my true nature. And when I'm experiencing the unconditional love that is my true nature, it's natural for me to be looking to see, what can I do for you? What can I give you? You know, how can I make your life easier? How can I practice kindness with you? You know, how can I allow you to experience that I'm giving you the space to live your life any way that works for you to live it, within limits. No shooting heroin in my house, you know. But there, even within limits, there's plenty of space to have a relationship that works with other human beings. Have it be a practice. See, that's the thing. If you wake up through the practice of meditation and studying these teachings, right, your life becomes a practice. Whenever you get upset, you go into practice mode, right? Whenever you get upset, you start paying attention to the thoughts, the emotions, physical sensations, and all that stuff, right? Why? Because that's when you act like an asshole. You know, Brad, what was his name? Brad Werner. Guys should check Brad Werner out on the internet. He does stuff on YouTube, and he's a Zen guy. He's a Zen teacher, but he is an atypical Zen guy. He's an interesting character, and he translates Zen teachings into his kind of interesting way of talking about it. For example, he wrote a book called Don't Be a Jerk. It's a Zen book. It's called Don't Be a Jerk. And what he's talking about is don't allow yourself to believe that you're your personality. That would have you being a jerk. Right? So once you start to get the hang of this stuff, you know, once you've been around this stuff long enough, that's why the teaching is so important, right? So you can start to get the hang of this stuff. So you can start to understand what I'm pointing to when I speak. You know, I'm not trying to get you to believe something I believe. No, I'm pointing to something that's real, that's happening all the time. And if you hear these teachings often enough, the truth starts to show up. You know, you actually start seeing what these teachings are pointing to. You start seeing the truth. You start seeing your true nature, and you can see the difference between that and when you're in a personality, operating as a personality. And what will happen over time, if you continue to practice and stay tuned into the teachings, is that your personality will begin to recondition itself and align itself with your true nature. Your personality will start to not only be a survival operation, it will be an operation for peace, satisfaction, and well-being. And once that begins to happen, you will find it easy to do what works. You'll find it easy to stop eating this shit food. You'll find it easy to start getting more exercise, right? Because you'll be in alignment with the way things really work instead of, you know, resisting what you don't feel like doing, you know, rejecting what takes too much time. If you're too busy, you know, if you're too busy to meditate, whatever time you were meditating, you should double. Right? Because if you're too busy to meditate, right, then you're lost in the sauce, because that's a lie. It's just not true. It's not true. You know, one of my teachers used to say, oh, you're that busy? You're busy from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed? Yeah, I am. I don't have time to meditate. Okay, get up a half hour earlier. See, the thing is this, if you get what this is really about, you know, you will do it because it works. You're not just doing it to do something interesting. You will do it because it works. It pays off to do it. You know, when I have a busy day in the office and I'm seeing a lot of clients, I meditate 2 or 3 times that day, right? Because I'm eating toxins. You know, I'm eating poison when I'm meeting with my clients, right? So between clients, I have to like dispense, you know, I have to reboot my brain, you know, so I can meet with the next person and have a fresh way of being with them, you know, instead of being still thinking about the last person like that. So you could do the same thing, you know, if you have a busy life, you know, and you're dealing with stress and you're dealing with challenging situations, you know, punctuate it with periods of being quiet and still, right? And just breathing, just being aware of the body breathing. You know, I understand, I remember in the beginning when I first started to learn to practice meditation, right? It was challenging. And so I really have compassion for you guys who are in this process of developing a meditation practice, because it's challenging. In the beginning, the mind will try try and annoy you out of the process. You know, you're sitting there and it's just constant. I used to sit, when I first started to meditate, I used to sit at home in my office for hours meditating, just waiting to see if something would change. Because it was just constant. But in the long run, if you keep doing this in the long run, the mental state will start to calm down. Especially if you're doing it correctly, which means you are removing your attention from that mental activity. And when your attention is not on the mental activity, right, has nothing to work with. When you remove your attention from the mental activity and you do it consistently over time, it must begin to calm down. It has nothing to work with. Yeah, it's a practice, right? You're practicing being awake. You're practicing being sane. You're practicing not being a mental case. You're practicing not identifying with your mind. And when you do that, things will get easier. You know, when you start to get aligned, when you start to practice being with life the way life is, right? Then there's no more resistance or rejection. You're just allowing life to happen the way life happens. That's the natural state.